7th and 8th was junior high.
Yeah, there you go. So I was the same way. We didn't have middle school when I was a kid. It was 7th and 8th. Yeah. Greg, were you too? Or Edward too? He's a little younger than us, but not that. How much younger?
I'm 56.
56. Oh, geez. So you're born in.
I'm 62.
Yeah, you were born in 50.
Just a baby.
I was in 52. And Rich is another guy born in 52.
Hello. Is this Rich?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Richie. And guess who's here? Say hi to John.
Rich, Jon Kingdon.
Jon Kingdon, my old New York.
Yeah, that's right. Was it Massapequa, if I remember?
No, Plainview.
Plainview, excuse me. Okay.
It's forgettable. It's as forgettable as Plainview itself.
Yeah.
How you been, man?
I'm good. I'm real good. Thank you.
All right, so how we're going to do this, Bruce and I, if you remember, Rich, we had you on before, we're going to do a 2-minute little interlude, and then we'll introduce you guys. And Bruce sent me a couple of clips, and the first one, I think it has to do with Colin Kaepernick, right? So you wanted to ask him the question. It looks like it's 1 minute and 17 seconds. How much of that did you want us to play?
The whole thing works.
Okay.
I think it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember which is the longer version. Yeah, the longer one is, I asked if Kelly would be able to resurrect Kaepernick's career, so I'll look that up.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And then the other one, he commented on the Super Bowl, and I asked him about Manning, and he said, Peyton's banged up, he's not too optimistic. So you can lead me accordingly, and I'll follow along.
Okay. And so, Bruce, I'll let you introduce that part of it, and then you let me know when you want me to play it.
No problem.
All right.
So we'll do our intro first, get that out of the way, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. This is the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. And today's show is going to be fun and busy. Why, Bruce?
Well, it's Super Bowl week here in the Bay Area, and we have two guys with really close ties to our Bay Area teams that are not in the Super Bowl, but they've been collectively the Raiders and 49ers to 11. Jon Kingdon was a longtime scout with the Raiders for some 30 years plus. And Rich Walcoff, my old buddy that I work with at KGO, he's the sports director there. He's been there since the early 80s and has covered the 49ers' great run of Super Bowls closely as the pre-game and post-game host. So these two guys know as much about the two teams we're talking about, the Raiders and the 49ers. We're going to get into the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos as well, but we have to give homage to our local teams. We'll have 11 Super Bowl appearances between them.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And we're going to play, when we come back, we're going to play a couple of clips. We'll let you introduce with Rich exactly what these clips are. And because of Super Bowl weekend, of course, we have to have Super Bowl trivia.
There we go.
So we'll ask some trivia questions here about the Super Bowl. And the first email with correct answer is going to win a free vacation to the Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And the vacation is not sponsored by the radio station, but sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. Check them out. Also, this second segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding, get this, over 8%, secured by Bay Area real estate at about 52% loan to value. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. And Bruce, you want to tell us any Super Bowl predictions before we cut the break?
Well, I think Rich and John are better qualified than I am because they cover the team so closely. But I would say, and I'll defer to them later, but I will say, I hate to say this, Carolina by 13.
Okay.
31 well, I'll say 31 to 16. How's that sound? 15 points.
I went on record last week, and I'm staying with it. Panthers by 10, 37 to 27.
Okay, there you go.
All right?
All right.
So stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan. When we come back, we're going to have our two guests, Jon Kingdon and Rich Walcoff. Stay with us. All right, so that's our exact 2 minute and 20-second one. Let me save the file.
Rich, how was your workout today?
Good, man. I'm getting in decent shape. It's fun. I've been working out with him for about 5 months.
This is your son you're working out with?
Yeah, we do CrossFit.
Yeah, that's great. His son is, well, I don't know if we didn't tell John that Rich's younger son is a CrossFit trainer. So Rich has been a big tennis guy for a long time, and now he's trying this with his son. It must be fun. He must be really sharp, is your kid.
Oh, he just graduated from Cal, and I think he's a pretty smart boy.
Yeah, really.
He loves it, and he competes he competed for the National Olympic style weightlifting competition.
Wow.
Last year.
I'm not hearing Rich on my headphones, but it's okay because I can hear the speakers just fine.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Are you hearing them on your headphones? Okay.
Sure.
But you can hear that though. Okay, good. Sometimes it's a little. That's okay. It's
Yeah,
no big
I'll
deal.
make sure that works.
Yeah.
All right, and then what I'll do is I'll take my mic and put it against here.
Oh, for the interview
Yeah,
thing.
when we
Sure.
So
I'll let Rich introduce it. Rich, you want to introduce these cuts yourself? That might make it easier.
Yeah,
Let's do
I'll
that.
talk it up.
Okay.
It was from an exclusive interview I had last night at the Paramount.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
And we'll get into that with both you and John.
Very good. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who do we have in the studio and on the phone?
Well, we got Jon Kingdon in the studio, longtime Oakland Raider, LA Raider scout, and we got on the phone Rich Walcoff, my good friend from KGO Radio, who, of course, is for many years the pre- and post-game show host of the 49er radio broadcast. And guys, great to have you here. John, first of all, I see Rich all the time because we work together. I got to say, I haven't seen you in a couple years. You were with the Raiders for over 30 years, is that right?
About 33 years.
Wow.
I came in as an intern in 1978, and I was there through 2011.
Before we get into all the Super Bowl hoopla, I got to ask you about Al Davis. I mean, I'm sure you got 100 stories, and many you can't tell, but he's gone now. So what was it like working for this guy? Because he really treated his football organization almost like his extended family.
Yeah, a great deal of loyalty from Al to most of the people, and I mean, you know, obviously there was his strength and his weaknesses, but I think the one thing you could never doubt was his commitment to win. He may not have always agreed with what he was doing, but you knew that when he did it, he believed that was the way to go.
Gotcha. And Edward, I know you and I have talked to Rich before, and it's fun at this time of year because the 49ers are in the Super Bowl. Why don't you lead in with, he's got an interesting, tell us the story about this interesting conversation that Rich had with Steve Young.
Well, Rich, I'm going to let you tell us.
Yeah, well, Steve and I go way back because I've been covering the 49ers about as long as John was with Silver and Black with a 5-year hiatus and worked with the Raiders on John's side of things when the 49ers left KGO Radio in 2005. And it was a fun ride, even though it was a rough time for Silver and Black in the years I was there. But Steve Young and I go back to his first year with the 49ers was my first year on the broadcast team. I traveled with the team in 84, 5, and 6. Kind of a rock star trip. It was like traveling with the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. But Steve arrived in 87 as the understudy to Joe Montana. And last night, he and I co-hosted an event in the Fairmont, a corporate private gathering. And fascinating is that Steve revealed something I had not known fully, that when he was brought from Tampa Bay to the 49ers, Bill Walsh said, Joe Montana's coming off of back surgery. I don't know how long he's got. You're probably going to be the main guy. And the first day of practice, Steve runs onto the field, and here comes a spry, fully healthy Joe Montana, and Young was devastated. And he was very, very anguished over this for years until one day he flew back from Utah after taking a little break from football, and happenstance sits next to Steve Covey, the guy who wrote the book 7 Habits of Successful People, who turned him around and turned his negative, woe be me attitude into a much more positive one. Look at the great coach, the great organization, the great owner, Joe Montana. You can learn from him, and that really, changed a lot for Steve Young. And a year later, he ended up being the MVP of the league and soon, a Super Bowl champ in his own right.
So, Rich, we're going to play this 1-minute clip. Can you give us a little introduction because it kind of cuts in?
Yeah, sure enough. I was asking Steve about Colin Kaepernick and if he thought Chip Kelly would be able to resurrect his once proud career.
All right, so audience, listen. Here we go.
The answer is no. He cannot by somebody else. He can doing it himself. There's many things that have happened to him. We recognize a lot of things happened to him. What really did him in was his inability to handle all of the things that all pro guys have to do. And now he needs to come back and reclaim it and make it his. Chip Kelly might help peripherally, an offensive coach or whatever else, or weapons or offensive line, or you name it. But in the end, he needs to reclaim the locker room, the respect of the guys, what he wants to try to accomplish, get back to the media, deal with everything kind of straight up. And he can do all that. He's the only one that can do that.
Well, it seems like his fundamentals had gone south, the mechanics, his accuracy. Does he spend too much time in the weight room and not enough time in the film room, as is being believed in a lot of circles?
Well, I think he definitely is a very hard worker, but he worked really hard at the things he was always pretty good at. And the things that he struggled with, I don't know that he put the time in. And that's natural. I get that, especially with the now it's kind of come full circle, and it's time to go and dig in, just like everyone else has had to do. I remember Drew Brees his career was on the brink in San Diego. He dug in, put the time in, dominated the data, did all the boring stuff, and came out of that and was a different quarterback. Cap can do that, but he's the only one that can go do that work.
That's interesting, Rich, talking with Steve Young. And John, I got to have you interject here because you scouted Colin Kaepernick when he was in college at the University of Nevada, Reno. What were your impressions of him? Because we heard a lot of things about him, but we didn't know he was going to be so explosive and so successful, and then had this sudden fall from grace.
You know, when he came out at Reno, there were a lot of his strengths. He was a wonderful athlete, a very strong arm. You know, he was a very good baseball player. You know, could throw it, you know, in the 90s exactly. Was a good person. You know, was adopted, had a great background. Was very humble. The one thing that bothered me was that sidearm motion. You know, the guys with sidearm motions tend to sail the ball with some inconsistency. Now, there are exceptions. Rich Gannon was a sidearm thrower, but he certainly was able to be accurate enough. And, you know, so I thought that they actually drafted him too high. But what goes on in scouting, you know, they took him in the second, and he played very well. So I guess I was wrong. Now he's doing poorly. I guess I was right.
There you go. There you go. Well, Rich, I mean, we want to talk about the Super Bowl and the here and the now of what's happening today, as well as the Raiders and 49ers. But this is a huge story here in the Bay Area. With will Colin Kaepernick's career be resurrected? What's your feeling? Can Chip Kelly be the guy? Because his system seems to fit Colin Kaepernick's style very well.
Well, it depends on what Colin is prepared to do. As Steve Young pointed out, is he going to do the hard work that accentuates his weakness to better improve on his weaknesses, or is he going to be a stubborn guy who feels betrayed by the organization, as some in his inner circle have leaked to the media, and does he want out to get a fresh start with the New York Jets or whomever else? So he's at a crossroads like the 49ers are, and I think this is still to be determined, because they have until April 1 to either keep him on board and pay him a guaranteed $12 million this season, or trade him or cut him loose. You know, he's a bright guy, but he's hypersensitive. I think he isolated himself from a lot of guys with the Beats headphones on his head almost all the time. Didn't get the proper. I don't think it was the great coaching, and I don't think he made the right adjustments. His mechanics are way off, and it would take a tremendous, coaching and decision on his part to address those weaknesses. And I don't know if he's going to embrace all that. So I guess I'm a little more skeptical than optimistic that he'd be back with the 49ers in good stead.
You know what, Rich, what bothered me, and this was a couple of years ago, you know, after the Super Bowl, I'm watching the ESPYs, and it's on late at night. He's in the front row. He's got the dark glasses on, and that just wasn't the type of person he was when he came out. So I think a lot of that got into his head. Now, I'm not with the 49ers, but like you're saying, he kind of seems like he divorced himself from his teammates.
You got to count how many tattoos he has, because all these guys, whenever they get more tattoos, they seem to go to their head. And what is it about the Jets? You know, I mean, is that where they give everyone a fresh start? Tim Tebow and.
Yeah, I guess everybody wants to be on the. Maybe a lot of people want to play for the Jets just because they're one of those teams. They're in New York, but they haven't won a Super Bowl. They haven't been in a Super Bowl since Joe Namath. So maybe there's kind of a romance.
Wait a minute, you got to have a tremendous defense. But if you thought the Bay Area media was tough.
Oh,
I can imagine.
I mean, Broadway, bright lights, you know, make it there, make it anywhere, as Frank Sinatra said. But I don't imagine he would embrace that scrutiny.
No.
He better be careful what he wishes for.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
We were just talking about a few days ago with Christoph Horst. Who's the guy, the 20-year-old, the 7-foot player for?
Oh, you're talking about the Knicks, the guy from Eastern Europe. 7'3", I think he is. He actually can shoot an outside jump shot.
All right, guys, hey, stay with us. We're going to cut to our first commercial break. Again, the theme is the Super Bowl. All right.
Okay, the guys, you can answer this question too, but wait till after
we go to break. We don't want to ruin it for the audience.
Sure.
It's funny because some of these questions are kind of hard and some are easy.
No, right? That's the way to use it.
You always got to keep me in suspenders there. Okay. All right. Which player had his helmet stolen at the 1994 Super Bowl?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
That's an off-the-wall
right?
bit of trivia. I don't know.
If you can't figure it out, I'll give you a hint when we come back.
Okay.
But that's our trivia question. First trivia question. And no looking it up on the internet there. Okay. Which player had his helmet? I saw John reaching into his pocket there.
writing something down.
He's writing something down.
Yeah,
Okay, which
yeah.
player had his helmet stolen at the 1994 Super Bowl? All right?
Okay.
Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we will be right back.
It's funny because I was
You can
that
guess
was
it if
that
you
was the
want.
Cowboys' second one over Buffalo, I think. At Atlanta, I was at that. I covered that game. Because the 49ers, remember, Rich, the 49ers they lost to the Cowboys that year.
Oh, yeah.
Young, what was it? Aikman got the concussion, and Bernie Kosar came in and threw that long pass to Alvin Harper, and Derek Davis went for the pick, and Harper he missed it. Harper got it, and the game was pretty much over. And I remember that.
You're talking about the end of the 92 NFC Championship?
Yeah, exactly. The 92, actually it was the 93 NFC Championship game. The 92 one was the one they won at Candlestick, which was really...
No, the 92 was January of 93, but it was the 93
Right.
season.
I know, it's kind of confusing
That's
to say
it, I know,
92 to
when it goes
93.
over,
Yeah, 93 to 94. So,
It's
yeah.
like about
you're right.
baseball. It's all in one year.
Thomas losing his helmet. I don't know anyone stealing a helmet. That's
Yeah.
me. And that
Yeah,
was
I never
I was
heard.
the sideline reporter at that Super Bowl.
Which, the one where Steve Young threw the 6 touchdowns?
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm thinking this is the one the year previous, so I'm guessing you said the 1994.
All right, I stole the helmet.
There you go.
All right, and then when do you want to play the second?
Why don't we get into Super Bowl talk, and then Rich, when you're ready, just go ahead and lead into that.
Yeah, because I didn't talk about Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question about the Super Bowl. Which player had his helmet stolen at the 1994 Super Bowl?
I don't have a clue. I covered that game. If it was after the 1993 season, it was the Cowboys' second one over Buffalo. But I don't remember anybody having their helmet stolen. John?
John, what were you
Yeah.
guessing?
I was guessing Thurman Thomas. I remember it was a big thing where he didn't have his helmet. He was out for the first couple of plays. So
I remember
I don't know if it was stolen or,
Yeah.
but that was the only one I
Okay, so this
think
player, he did get the helmet back.
Okay.
Okay, here's the big hint.
You got to let Rich try to
Oh,
answer
Rich,
this one.
who was it?
Well, that was when you say 1994 Super Bowl, and you're kind of throwing me a little bit of a curve because it was the 94 season or the Super Bowl in January of 94. It was Thurman Thomas. That was my recollection. Thurman Thomas couldn't find his helmet, couldn't get into the game, as John pointed out. The 94 season at Super Bowl was Steve Young's, and that was the one that I was in Miami on the sideline as the first ever radio sideline reporter that the NFL allowed. And
Wow.
Steve Young threw those 6 touchdown passes and actually shook my hand as he came off the field in a throng of reporters getting the curtain call. And I congratulated him and he said, "Thanks, Rich. Thanks for all of your support. Oh, my goodness. This is like the highlight of my career right on the field of the Super Bowl."
How cool is that?
I don't freaking know what happened.
Yeah, as you said, someone was accusing you of stealing it. But no, this would have been January of '94 because it was the season
Of 93, so Buffalo against Dallas, yeah.
Okay, so who's the MVP?
Emmett Smith, I
Emmitt
believe,
Smith.
yeah.
It was his helmet.
His helmet.
His helmet got stolen.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then it got recovered like days later.
I remember covering that game. It was in Atlanta, and the Cowboys were actually only leading by, I think, a touchdown. And then in the second half, Dallas just blew them out. And Emmitt Smith
That
went
was
crazy.
Super Bowl 28 with the Dirty Birds.
That's the one. There you go. That is the one. Very good, guys.
The Dirty Birds.
Yeah, it was the whole. Wasn't that a dance routine?
the dance thing with Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I do remember Leon Lett hitting Don Beebe hitting it.
Oh, that was the year before in Pasadena, yeah, with Buffalo, where Beebe comes in from behind and Lett's about to score a touchdown, and he knocks the ball out of his hands just as he's crossing.
Touchback. That was
For a touchback, yeah.
And you remember the Dirty Birds, they had that choreographed celebration in the end zone after the touchdown that the NFL soon after banned.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, let's get into the here and now. I know you had a chance to talk to Steve also about these two quarterbacks, and who would be better qualified to talk about great quarterbacks than Steve Young? Peyton Manning probably going to finish his career with this game. Cam Newton just starting to hit his stride. So set the scene here for us. You talked to him about that.
Well, first off, I asked him about Manning, and Steve Young is a big fan of Manning, and who wouldn't be? I mean, the guy is a few weeks shy of his 40th birthday, and he's just been the sheriff in every way, and just a phenomenal player. But he thinks that plantar fasciitis in the left foot is really limiting what he can do in terms of, planting that lead foot to make a strong throw. And he really feels it'll compromise his performance Sunday against Kansas.
Gotcha. Okay, you guys ready for the clip?
Yeah, here we go. This is Steve Young again talking about Peyton Manning.
He really can't do the things that he wants to do, even close. So hopefully, this one last ride, unfortunately, of all the times that he dominated and made the headlines, he's going to need other people to do it for him.
Yeah, and Cam Newton catching a lot of flack in some circles because he said, the world's not ready for me, the black quarterback who can do what I can do.
Yeah, he's in your face, but I think more than anything, Cam just likes to have fun. I enjoy watching him play. Obviously, I think I relate to his game. I think the guys that have learned the skill of throwing the ball from the pocket and still can run around are the ultimate weapons in the NFL, and he certainly is getting to that place. So it's fun to see him do that and then still smile. I couldn't smile. Like I was in the middle of it, right?
Fretting and sweating.
Right. So I admire that he's having such a good time dominating people, and I have a feeling that things are going to go very, very well for him this weekend as well.
That's a great observation by Steve Young, because I think that's the thing we all love about Cam Newton. Not only is he a great player, but he just plays with exuberance, like his buddy Steph Curry of the Warriors. And John, we were talking about quarterbacks. I don't want to get off on a tangent on this, but players who played with exuberance, one of the guys I always remember was, back when you were a young guy and I was a young guy, Ken Stabler was just wrapping his career up with the Raiders. And he just, sadly enough, passed away recently and is probably going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. Any thoughts about comparing Super Bowls, with Cam Newton and Ken Stabler and all these great players, Steve Young? I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing here.
Well, I think Kenny would compare more to Peyton than he certainly would to Ken. Coming out, Kenny, obviously with the name Snake, he could run like heck. And you remember the immaculate reception? He made the great run down the sideline for the touchdown.
Just before the immaculate reception.
But people, people responded to Kenny as a leader, and he wasn't a holler yell guy, but they really responded. And when he was in the huddle, talking to people there, that when he spoke, boy, they all listened.
I don't understand the black situation that Cam must be kind of kidding around because Doug Williams, kind of made.
Well, Rich, you can speak to this probably as well as anybody, because there are a lot more black quarterbacks playing today, and there are a lot more good ones than there ever have been. And Cam Newton is the best of that bunch, and I just don't see anybody right now in his league, at least this season. Maybe, next year a different story, but this year it seems to be his year and the Panthers' year.
Well, unfortunately, football, like our society, is not exactly as embraced athletes for who they are without consideration of racial, affinity. And here's Cam Newton with all his theatrics and histrionics and over-the-top celebration of Superman and handing the football to fans, despite the fact he's a clean-cut guy who has done so much for charity, he's called out for being over the top. Well, hey, when Von Miller grabs his private parts after a sack, no one says anything. Cam Newton does things, in maybe a very bodacious way, but it's clean. And in fact, Jerry Richardson, the team owner of the Panthers, when he was scouting Cam at the combine, said to him, "No tattoos, no body piercings." And Cam said, "That's correct, sir." And Richardson said, "Keep it that way."
Good.
Now, Newton doesn't have the tattoos, he doesn't have the piercing, but somehow the stigma of athletes, especially minority athletes who do, undermines how they're received in the population at large. The Panthers get hundreds of phone calls regularly, critical of Cam Newton. Now remember, they're in the South, and they don't think they lost the war in the Civil War. They think it's halftime.
It's interesting you bring that up, though, because Doug Williams got asked that question many years ago, about 27 years ago. Somebody said, "How does it feel to be a black quarterback in the NFL?" Or something like that. Well, you remember the question, either one of you guys?
Yeah. Hey, Russell Wilson last year, there were reports that some people thought on the Seahawks, there were reports that he wasn't black enough.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson,
And
like
so,
Newton, articulate, generous, intelligent, everything, regardless of race.
Exactly. They're just good quarterbacks.
well, and that relates to the team that John was a scout for, the Raiders. Al Davis was really a pioneer in that regard, wasn't he, John? Because in the old AFL days, this is before your time, and when I was still a kid too, we were watching the games as kids. Al was bringing in, half the guys were from the Deep South, places like Grambling and Morris Brown, and he was opening up doors and breaking down barriers.
Yeah, Al was very much in the forefront. Eldridge Dickey, he drafted out of Tennessee State. But I think the first black quarterback drafted in the NFL. But I think the AFL as a whole was very much involved in getting players from the historically black
Well,
colleges.
they had
that
to be
way.
pioneers, putting themselves on the map.
Yeah, I mean, well, and of course, when they merged with the NFL, it was the best thing that ever happened. The league became preeminent in 1970. It coincided with Monday Night Football and the merger, and the teams. The league has never been stronger. Don't you agree with that, Rich? Because here we are, 45 years after the age of Aquarius, 1970 or 46 years, and the NFL's extravaganza. You've been to some of it. I went to some of it this week. It's just really over the top. It's crazy.
Well, here's the dichotomy of it. It's never been more successful. It's never been more profitable. It's never been more popular, and it's never been more threatened with the preponderance of CTE, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy we were just referring to. That Ken Stabler's brain showed evidence that he was a victim of this brain-eating disease. 90 of 93 brains that have been posthumously examined by the doctors at Boston University show evidence of the CTE. So the game, I know they're trying to make it safer and limit the head hits and the launching and the hitting of the quarterbacks above the shoulders and whatnot, but it is endemic to the game. It's a violent game. And Steve Young talked about it last night. He said he feels great at almost 55 years of age, but a lot of his former teammates don't. And they're living with depression and perhaps early signs of CTE. And he said it's going to be, they're coming into a time where it's going to be like riding a bucking bronco. You're a bull rider. You know what you're getting into, and you're going to have to sign on. And those willing to accept, assume the risk, will be the ones playing the game. Dr. Harry Answorth told me he thinks in 10 years the NFL will be 90% black because of the socioeconomic considerations. Right now it's 30% black.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all because people who are more on the economic edge are going to take more chances to make some money because the best chance to make money is in the NFL.
NBA and all that stuff.
Definitely.
We're going to cut to our second commercial break. Before we do, though, Rich, I want to ask you, what's your prediction for the Super Bowl?
Well, there's no way I think we're going to see, what did you have, 37, 27, 54 points. These two teams have got phenomenal defenses. Carolina's got the explosive offense. I don't think Denver's going to be able to move the ball with a limping, gimping Peyton Manning. I see something like a 27-10 Carolina win. They're explosive, the highest scoring team in the league, and a good defense to boot. And they are fired up, and they're a hot team.
And we'll get John's prediction after the break here. Yeah,
exactly.
All right.
Okay. Actually, Bruce, this is an easy question.
Okay.
You guys,
I'll try.
You guys know football.
Everybody knows it then.
Who was the only player to be awarded the MVP for the losing team?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
Okay. That's a good
That's
one.
a great question.
Yeah, yeah.
I got it.
You got
It's way back.
Don't say
Okay,
it.
you
Don't say it.
answer it then.
You can surprise us all with the
Yeah.
answer.
Give us a clue.
It goes way back. You're talking about the early 70s?
Well, I believe it was the NFC team.
So it would have been. Was it Dallas, Baltimore in 1970, and the Cowboys lost that game? That was the Blunder Bowl, and I think somebody on defense. I don't know. That was 16-13.
Hey, John, off that subject, if I can just jump in and ask you, what did you think of Jamarcus Russell when he came? Would you scout him? And what a tremendous flex. This guy wastes all that talent.
Yeah, you know what? I just did film on him, and he was as good as anyone I've ever seen. Now, again, I don't want to. This is just off the record, and don't repeat it, please.
Sure.
But our scout that went there said to Al, look, this is a guy. They have to wake him up to get out of bed. They have to sign someone to take in a class, someone to kick in a practice, and that's going to be a real issue. And Al, by dint of will, felt he could handle these things, and he couldn't. And as I mentioned to Edward here. One of the issues is he had, $38 million of FU money.
Yeah, that's
so
always.
I really think that, and there was a big, Lane was absolutely adamant against it, and we were all for Calvin Johnson, and it was like there was a story about Abe Lincoln with his all of his advisors, and they all said nay, 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 and Lincoln said there are 11 nays and one eye, and the ayes have it.
Yeah.
That's Al Davis, right? There you go.
But he was as talented as all get out. Nobody knew he'd be that big a dog.
Can you repeat? Can you go through the story on the air?
I'd rather not.
No, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I always ask. We're always finding nice words.
John is a very classy guy. You know, the thing I like about John is, like a lot of people in the Raider organization, they'll tell you good stories, but they're not going to tell you stories that's going to make people look embarrassed or bad.
Gotcha.
And, you know, as bad as Jamarcus was, maybe he deserves that, you know? I mean,
Gotcha. Okay. That's fine.
He's been pounded enough.
he has been pounded enough. Yeah.
All right. You guys ready?
John, what about the future of the Raiders off the record?
Well, I think the best thing they did was to have Ray Farmer draft Johnny Manziel instead of Derek Carr. They should send him a dozen roses every week. And that's the key thing to me.
Yeah.
You know, you get the quarterback, and the great teams have the quarterback, and you know if he keeps improving, you know the sky's the limit.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to
No,
watch.
excuse me. I meant the future of where they're going to be.
Oh gosh, you know what? Las Vegas would be a lot of fun.
I hear people say it's never going to happen in Las Vegas, but I wouldn't be surprised. It makes sense.
You know, I
Yeah,
know,
they have an indoor stadium though.
yeah, no question. That's the plan. I know David Hum very well, who lives there, and he says the guy, Atticusson, or whatever his name, Adelson.
Adelson.
He's got the money. He wants
Yeah.
to spend it.
That is a perfect
George
place for it.
Atkinson told me this a month ago before anyone else. He said to me, the Raiders are considering moving to Vegas.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, it'd be the perfect place for them.
Yeah.
Think about it. It would be. It really, it fits their image.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. Here's our second trivia question. We kind of stumped the guys a little bit, maybe. Who was the only player to be awarded MVP for the losing team?
I'm going back. John and I were talking about this, and I think he said he believes it's somebody from the early 70s on defense on the losing team. So who was it?
I believe it was Chuck Howley, the linebacker.
That's right.
Well, I knew, yeah.
1970, right?
71.
Well, after the 70 season.
It's at the 70 season. Yep.
Yeah, because in 71, after the 71 season, the Cowboys crushed the Dolphins.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember vividly because I was I just turned 11. It was my birthday.
Those are big.
Like,
Those are big
literally,
moments.
My birthday was like, hey, for my birthday, let's watch the Super Bowl. And I was a Baltimore Colts fan.
Oh boy! Well, that was a good one. And Jimmy O'Brien's finest moment, a 37-yarder to win the game.
Earl Morrall coming back.
Yeah, Earl Morrall.
Number 15 in for Johnny U.
That's right.
Yeah,
Good,
exactly.
good memory there, Richie. Yeah, that's right. Earl Morrall was a heck of a quarterback at a late age.
Cinderella Man, they used to call him. I remember all that. And Bubba Smith.
Bubba Smith.
And,
we got to get
Mike Curtis.
The Super Bowl numerals. You know, you get you into the Super Bowl numbers, my friend.
No question about it. Well, I just was struck me. You were talking about Earl Morrall, and George Blanda never played in the Super Bowl. He retired the year before the Raiders finally won a Super Bowl. And John, you weren't there, and nor was I, in terms of being around the Raiders a lot back in the day when he was playing. But you got to know him, and I think Rich probably met him a few times. I know I had some long discussions with him when he was much older. Can you talk a little bit about what he meant to that franchise? Because for those that don't know, George Blanda was 48 years old.
And again, that was certainly before I was there. But Al, speaking of Al and loyalty, he loved George Blanda. Anything he could ever do for him. Anytime we ever played near where George was living, he always brought him by. And then when George passed away, Al, I don't know if you're aware of this, he had a tremendous memorial dinner for him, and he brought in basically every player that ever played with George. Brought in people from the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was the first. Because the Houston Oilers.
Houston Oilers.
Well, Houston Oilers. Excuse me. Billy Groman is the name that goes way back, and I knew him as a scout. But was a great receiver. He flew him in to this memorial dinner. It must have been 300 people or so. So that's really is a really nice reflection on Al and how much these players meant to him.
When we mentioned Earl Morrall, a lot of people forget how what he did for the Dolphins. I mean,
Bob Greasy, I think, Bob Greasy and him, they sort of bounced off each other for a while. Although Greasy became the preeminent guy, but having a guy like Morrall around, I mean, Rich, we were talking about the Steve Young Montana thing. That's what made the 49ers so dominant in the late and mid 80s. Is they had this great quarterback in the making, waiting in the wings to take over, and he had like 4 or 5 years to watch the best in football. You were around during that time. Was there a lot of jealousy between Montana and Young?
What do you think, Tom? Let me tell you something. There were alpha dogs fighting for the same bone and only one can get it. But in a way, one another. And Steve Young spoke about that last night. He said he thinks that the rivalry made them both better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But Montana had to be on his game. And Bill Walsh encouraged so many things in his team, not contemptuous, battles for glory, but just keeping guys on edge about losing jobs. He would cut a guy a year too early. There was tremendous competition all over the place. You weren't resting on laurels if you didn't meet expectation levels and whatnot. But Steve and Joe had a very strained, and that commercial where you see them meeting with Bo Jackson and the other Hall of Famers, and hey Joe, I didn't realize you were coming. And Steve and Joe, they look, shake hands, and then high five, and then hug, and they have an awkward moment. He said we didn't really have to practice that commercial because that was our life.
I love it. I love it.
We had a situation. You talk about two great quarterbacks. And the Raiders had signed Jimmy Plunkett when Kenny was there, and Al's theory was to let Jimmy get better emotionally and physically. But I remember you talk about the competitiveness between the quarterbacks. There was a game against the Saints. It was a Monday night game.
Oh, I remember this.
And Kenny got shaken up, and Jimmy was the backup, and he ran on the field. And this is before you're shaken up, you got to go off the field. And so Jimmy went out there, and Johnny Otten told me the story. Johnny's with the Raiders, and he said Plunkett looked at him and said, "Get the hell out of here." And so Johnny said, "Jimmy, what'd you do?" He says, "I got the hell out of there." But that was but that was a nice step from Kenny, obviously, to Jimmy Plunkett. That was a nice run, and Darryl LaMonica before that.
Well, we forgot about Dan Pastorini, who was traded for Kenny Stabler, but had he not broken his leg early in the season, when the Raiders were off to a horrible start, Plunkett never would have come in, and you guys never would have had that great run with the wild card team winning the Super Bowl in 1980.
That's true. No, a lucky break, so to speak.
The twist, as Bill King would say, the late great Bill King used to say this when the game would turn, an incredible twist of fate.
If I remember correctly, didn't Pastorini come out the same year that Archie Manning did?
There were three great quarterbacks that came out that year. He was one. There was another one, and I can't remember the third. My brain is.
Plunkett came out in '70,
70.
right after the Rose Bowl.
Yes, and his first game in the NFL was against the Raiders at Schaefer Stadium. The first game ever played at Schaefer Stadium, and he beat the Raiders in his very first game as a member of the New England Patriots.
Yeah,
And the Raiders did not.
The
The Raiders did not make the playoffs that year.
Wow.
That was their one year they didn't make
What
it.
was the year that Stabler started?
70. Well, he started. Wasn't it, John? After the 72 season, he picked it up early in 73,
Yeah, I
right?
believe that's what it was.
I guess
Yeah.
Plunkett was just a little before him then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, well, Rich, I got to ask you: are you hyped out about the Super Bowl? I mean, I just went to the opening night with every player from both teams were there, and of course, 4,000 media folks were there. They charged the fans. This is obscene. $50 to $75 a piece to sit in the San Jose the SAP Center where the Sharks play to watch us interview the players on the floor. And I guess they had a roving guy, that was doing interviews up on the big screen. But this thing has just gotten crazier and crazier every year.
Well, if you're spending $5,000 to go to the game, I thought it was $30 in the stands.
That's what I thought.
But no one's putting a gun to anybody's head. If they're
gonna get it.
fanatical about pay that money to watch players being interviewed from essentially 50 yards away, it just shows you the level of fanaticism that's out there. Now, I'm pumped up about this game because you've got the two top seeds, you've got the best offense in the league in Carolina, the best ranked defense in Denver, you've got, in all likelihood, Peyton Manning's last game, you've got Cam Newton exploding onto the scene, having a losing record prior to this year in his 4-year career. This year they're 15-1 plus last 17-1. And will he be overwhelmed or will he seize the moment? I think he is going to be the carpe diem of Super Bowl 50. And, I'm stoked. This is my 10th to be at a Super Bowl, 10th time. And they never seem to disappoint. I've been to a bunch of great ones. And 4 of them with the 49ers. And they never lost. And I didn't go to New Orleans. And they did lose. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this big time.
You're talking about some great quarterbacks. John, you wanted to chime in about that?
Well, about this game, the thing I'm looking forward to is Wade Phillips, maybe the top defensive coordinator, to see how he's going to defend Cam Newton, And I was saying my theory would be to try and take away one key aspect of his game, which would be his ability to scramble and maybe just set up where they're rushing him, but just contain him in the pocket, force him to beat you throwing. But that's just my theory. And then we'll see how Mike Shula adjusts to that.
I wonder, because you give him a little too much time then, don't you?
That's true too.
Well, and
What's a trade-off?
one thing about Cam Newton, you watch it, he's not afraid. He reminds me a lot in some respects of a toned-down Marshawn Lynch, the way he runs over people. I mean, he literally will try to go into the beast mode and try to just steamroll an opponent. I've seen him do this to linebackers. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, where he'll literally, at 250 pounds, he can do that. But you wonder how much longer he can do that very often and get away with it. I don't know.
Well, he's bigger than half the people he hits. So I was
That's
talking
true.
to Greg Cosell, the NFL film senior producer, who very calmly told me that he watches more film on quarterbacks than anybody, and he thinks and believes that he's one of the top 5 evaluators of film in terms of quarterbacks. I don't know what you think about that, John, but Greg was saying to me, you watch what the Broncos did to Brady. They rushed 3 or 4 most of the game and dropped 7 or 8 into coverage, and were able to hit Brady 23 times and sack him 5 times. I don't think Carolina's got a great offensive line. New England had a hodgepodge offensive line, and the thinking also is by Cosell and others that you want to flush Newton to the left, and that if he stands in the pocket, he's much better at reading and delivering an accurate throw. And if he gets out of containment, look out, because he's that much more dangerous. But if you can spy him and get him to roll left, it's more advantageous to the defense. And Wade Phillips is a gambler, but he is going to be he's not gambling with house money in this game.
Well, the cover of Sports Illustrated this last week was the Denver Rush on New England. And as for Greg Cosell's lack of humility, he obviously has come by that honestly.
Yeah, right.
So it's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am.
And,
right?
and no relation, by the way. Greg Cosell and Howard Cosell, no relation between those two.
Yes,
No.
yes, he's a nephew.
Oh, no, I didn't know this. I thought they were not related. Okay.
How can anybody with a name like
No,
Cosell not be
Cosell.
He
related?
didn't know his uncle very well.
Okay.
He's the nephew of
I did not know that. I thought for all this time I'd heard the opposite, so I stand corrected.
We got a couple of more minutes left before we go to another commercial break. Anything you guys want to cover?
Well, I just want to ask John first about Kenny Stabler in the Super Bowl in '76. That was my first Super Bowl. Now, you were about to join the Raiders. You'd worked in the organization, and you got to see him play later. Again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about him because he's gone now, but the sad thing is that he's going to go in the Hall of Fame, but we hear these stories about the degenerative brain disease, and I feel I have mixed feelings about Ken Stabler now. I feel sad for what he went through, but I'm so happy that he was an important part of our.
Yeah, but he should have been while he was still alive. You've gotten
I agree.
so he could enjoy it, because he obviously should have been.
I agree. John, is he Hall of Fame worthy in your mind?
Absolutely. And there's others. Tom Flores. John Madden's in the Hall of Fame with 1 Super Bowl. Tom Flores is not with 2. Cliff Branch, his numbers are much better than Lynn Swan's. I think there was a little negative Raider carryover.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Now, just
getting
getting
anti-Al Davis.
but getting back to the CTE thing, I think the league, and I'm not here to be an apologist for them, but they're doing a lot of things, and not so much that they're magnanimous, but the lawsuits I think have really helped. Number 1, I think the equipment is going to be good. Number 2, and number 3, the concussion protocol I think is really important. And they got independent people now, not just the doctors on the sidelines saying this guy is out. So, but there's no getting away. It's a terribly violent, dangerous game.
Get ready for them to be wearing those sumo wrestling bubble things.
Well, no, you don't laugh, because Steve Wallace, back in the heyday of the 49ers, did wear a second helmet cover over his
I remember that.
He was ridiculed for wearing that bubble helmet. They're working on helmets that actually displace the hit, so you would not feel it the full brunt, sort of like the bumper in a car that would collapse. They're working on the technology, and there's a lot of research on this, because it could be a make or break for professional football as we know it going forward in this new millennium.
Maybe they'll have like water bumpers. You remember that? Remember the cars with the water bumpers? You hit them and all the water comes out?
Oh, yeah.
Well, and again, the thing that's happening, even in the Pee Wee leagues and the freshmen, sophomore, JV and varsity and college, any hits to the head, they are being very strict on it to get them out of it.
All right, guys, we're going to cut to our last commercial break here. question, Super Bowl question. Who was the first wide receiver to be awarded MVP? All right.
Good one.
First email with correct answer was a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question. Who was the first wide receiver to be awarded a Super Bowl MVP? All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll come back with some closing comments.
I'm guessing Lynn Swan. I don't know.
Well, you may or may not be correct.
What do you think, Rich? Lynn Swan?
Gosh, I'm scratching my head.
Well, I remember Lynn Swan won it in the 10th Super Bowl when the Steelers beat the Cowboys, and he made those two great catches. I'm trying to think of anybody else before him.
Well, the guy who didn't get it but should have gotten it was Max McGee.
Max McGee.
But he didn't get it. They gave it to Bart Starr.
Bart Starr got it. That's right. Max McGee caught three touchdowns in that game. He caught two, I think,
So,
maybe three.
And he was like, he was out partying all night,
Oh, yeah.
drinking. He's on the sideline.
You look at the pictures of him catching the ball. He doesn't even look athletic. He looks like a guy from a beer league, but he had the great technique of bringing the ball into his chest rather than these guys.
Boyd Dowler got hurt.
Yeah, that's right. Boyd Dowler. That was a good play.
By the way, Bruce, you were saying it like Ken Stabler's kin. He needs 80% of the Veterans Committee on the vote on Saturday.
Yeah, I know. I'm just being optimistic. I'm hearing a lot of things.
Get it out like it's a done deal.
Well, I want to ask you.
Eddie DeBartolo is up.
Can we mention that briefly before we get out of here about Eddie D?
Yeah. We have 2 quick minutes.
Okay,
So
let's do
You
that.
know, the creepy thing, I hate to say, I would never say this, I imagine the CTE thing has probably helped Kenny get some votes.
Yeah, see, there you go. A little sympathy.
And also just passing.
I'd hate to say it.
No, that's probably true.
And the passing as well.
Yeah, the passing.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the last commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Who was the first wide receiver to be awarded MVP?
And I'm going to say Lynn Swan.
You are correct,
Right,
Lynn Swan.
Number 10
Number
against the Dallas Cowboys.
Very good.
Before we say goodbye, Rich, I got to ask you, we talked to John about Ken Stabler in all probability getting into the Hall of Fame this weekend, the former Raider quarterback. Eddie DeBartolo getting in as a special contributor. Why not? I mean, 5 Super Bowls during his reign. What's holding that thing up anyway? Why wouldn't he get
Well, the one sting, and it's a very notable one, is a felony with the extortion, bribery of Edwin Edwards, the former governor of Louisiana, in efforts to get the approval of a racetrack that Eddie wanted to build back 25 or so years ago, and that forced him to sell the 49ers to his sister and brother-in-law John York, and the rest is history.
Well, hasn't he paid his penance on that one, though?
Looking in. But I think time has, it's been long enough that Eddie has been paying the price, if you will, and it's about time he gets honored. Did anyone do more to transform an organization? I mean, the 49ers were a laughing stock before he took over, and then catapulted them to the greatest run this league has ever seen in a 16-year period of 5 Super Bowls.
Hey, Rich, thank you so much for joining us along with John. Appreciate it.
The hour went by very quickly.
It did.
Yeah.
So here's our thoughts for the day. Joe Theismann said, nobody in football should be called a genius. A genius is a guy like Norman Einstein. And Torrin Polk, University of Houston wide receiver, when asked about his coach, John Jenkins, Polk said, he treats us like men. He lets us wear earrings. Love that. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. And again, we want to thank our guests, Jon Kingdon and Rich Walcoff, for joining us in the studio here on Sports Econ 101.
A lot of fun with these guys.
Oh, yeah, no,
stories.
very, very
and
good story.
we could have gone for another hour. Easily.
I know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to cut out.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, your host. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, Richie. Good job, John.
Yeah, very
Richie can
good.
go much further.
Hey, where are you giving these tips away? That sounded really cool.
Yeah.
Good show.
Yeah, it was actually really good.